These three putters right here, the Z1, the Z2S, and the Z5S from Evnroll, are taking dead aim at one of the trendiest putters on the PGA Tour and one of the golf clubs that's really fascinating recreational players around the world, the L.A.B putter. One of the biggest challenges that golfers at virtually every level are going to have when it comes to putting is bringing the putter face back to the exact same position that they establish when they're addressing the golf ball. Now, L.A.B addresses that challenge with something that's called lie angle balance. L.A.B says that it is going to keep the face of the putter square to the established lie angle throughout your stroke. The shortcoming for many people is that the L.A.B putters look very different. It can be a really jarring thing depending on exactly what type of mount putter you're going to be coming from. Okay, so now enter Evnroll with what the company refers to as face-forward technology. You see, most putters, especially blade-style putters, have some degree of what we refer to as toe hang, which means that the toe hangs slightly below the level of the heel when you balance the putter. That type of putter is especially good for golfers who have slightly arced or more pronounced arced strokes. Then you get some other putters that are what we refer to as face balance, which means that when you balance them, they point directly up to the sky. And those types of putters are typically good for players who have a relatively straight back, straight through stroke. With face-forward technology, Evnroll is touting the fact that this putter, by nature of its balance, wants to stay square to the path, no matter what your path is, the whole way through your stroke. And that can lead to a lot more consistency, and ideally, according to Evnroll, that's going to lead to putts that roll out along your intended target line a lot more often. On top of that, Evnroll is able to do that with putters that look a lot more like traditional putters, or at least relatively modern putters, something that you may have had in your bag fairly recently, and not something that looks completely different. For example, this Z2S blade style putter looks like a putter that is a traditional heel-toe weighted blade with simply a larger back flange here. So how do they do that? Well, it actually comes down to the hosle, and it's something that's subtle enough where a lot of people may miss it. So this has a traditional plumber's neck hosle, but as I turn the putter towards you, if you notice, and if it sort of looks a little bit different, yeah, because it is. So typically with a plumber's neck hosle, the hosle itself comes back and then goes down into the head of the putter, creating what's referred to as offset. This putter has a hosle that actually goes forward towards your intended target and then down. Now, Evnroll refers to this as reverse offset. I've also heard and really used the phrase onset much more, where it's basically pushing the hitting area forward towards your target. Now, as a result of this unique Hosle configuration, the shaft points down here, right towards what is referred to as the center of mass. And that is what allows the putter's toe to point directly up to the sky. So even though you have a relatively traditional blade style putter, the balance of it, because of the shaft configuration, gives it this really unique, super high MOI design. Evnroll is also able to achieve the exact same thing with the same type of Hosle configuration in the Z5S putter right here, as well as the Z1 putter. And so you've got some choices in some relatively modern style mallet putters, as well as a heel-toe weighted blade putter. So what Evnroll is doing with the Zero series is giving you many of the benefits from an MOI and from a balance perspective that players are really being drawn to from the L.A.B putters, but they're giving it to them in much more traditional shapes, or at least much more modern shapes, something that's not quite as exotic looking. At the same time, Evnroll did design its sweep face technology into all three of the Zero putters. That means that this grooved face design here, with its variable depth of grooves and the way that the grooves are sort of packed together, is going to try and create a much more consistent ball speed across the entire hitting area. See, normally when you hit a ball in the face and you get it to roll out a certain distance, that same swing will produce less distance, or a shorter roll, if you hit it in the heel or the toe. Well, these grooves help to normalize the face out, so the ball actually comes off a little bit quicker when you hit it in the toe or in the heel section than it ordinarily would. And it just a little bit slows down the strikes that you would get in the center. Now, in addition to having a relatively traditional style blade look, this Z2S putter is actually designed to have the shaft be relatively straight up and down. There's not a significant forward press, which many ultra high MOI and face forward balanced putters are going to have these days. I think that's going to make it a lot easier to transition into something like this than it might into other putters that have a significant level of onset, or really push the face a lot more forward. They have a lot more forward press designed into them. Okay, so obviously Evnroll made all three of these putters available to me, and I had an opportunity to go to the practice green and give them a roll and hear my thoughts. I think at first glance, a lot of golfers might be fooled by the Evnroll Zero family of putters, because they would look down when they were addressing a golf ball and know that something wasn't quite right, but it was subtle and they might not be able to put their finger exactly on it. Because the look is so subtle and because there is not so much onset, I think that it's much easier for golfers to transition into something like this because, frankly, looking down at these putters, they look like a lot of putters that are very popular out there on the market. You've got a couple of modern style mounts. You've got a wide heel toe weighted blade. They look like putters that people are probably relatively familiar with. But again, when you're looking down at the golf ball, something looks just a little amiss. Something looks a little bit off. And obviously, it's the look you're going to be getting with this specific Hosle mechanism. Rolling putts with all three of the Zero putters from Evnroll, they felt fantastic coming off the face. When you strike a ball right in the middle of this grooved face, it seems to come off beautifully. It has a really deep, rich sound that I sort of like. I've been using a milled putter for a long time, and it has a very, very similar sound and feel. So for me, that was fantastic. I also loved the grip that comes standard on the Evnroll putters. It's an ergo grip. It has a flat top onto it, so if you want to put both thumbs on the top of this putter in the address position and go ahead and use it that way, to me, with slightly larger hands, it felt absolutely fantastic. The alignment systems are pretty basic. In the Z5S, you have a simple one line with a pair of dots that are on the top line. The same thing in the Z2S. The Z1 has a pair of lines along with a cutout. And yes, the Z1, you will be able to pick up the golf ball by pushing down on it and retrieving it. If there is a trick to getting the most out of the Evnroll Zero family of putters, I think that it's you don't want to change or alter your putting stroke to try and fit the putter, which seems obvious. You want to go ahead and make the normal stroke that you would typically make and let the putter do the work, in this case, for you. I think a lot of times when players are trying out putters that are being touted as having some type of unique or different technology, they get really careful with their stroke. Don't do that. If you have a relatively straight stroke, if you have an arc stroke, if you have a really pronounced arc to your stroke, go ahead and make your natural putting stroke. These putters are designed to keep the face pointed down your path. So you don't want to manipulate your hands. You don't want to do anything special with your stroke. Let the putter swing the way that you would normally swing, and let the putter do its work. When I did that, I found that the roll was very true. I felt like I struck putts very solidly. I felt like I was getting them started on the line that I wanted to get them started on, which is exactly what a putter like this is designed to do. As I was going around the putting green, I kept thinking to myself that the Evnroll Zero family of putters is actually a really good entry point for people going from a relatively traditionally weighted and balanced putter into putters that have either face forward or toe up design, whatever you sort of want to call it. If you're looking for that ultra high MOI, this feels much more similar to traditional putters. It looks more traditional than something, for example, like the L.A.B DF3. I'm not knocking the L.A.B DF3 in the least. There are a lot of people who love this putter. But what I'm saying is that something like this is going to be a lot more traditional on your eyes, and I think that if you can discipline yourself to make your traditional stroke with something like this, it could be a really good way to transition for the first time into this style of putting. And I think that's going to hold especially true with this putter, which is the Z2S, because again, having a blade style look, but with the benefits of the face forward balance or the toe up balance, is going to be something I think will make a lot of people, when they see this putter and they see the technologies and the balance that are sort of designed into it, they'll be much more open to maybe giving this a try, seeing if they get that high MOI benefit, if they get the enhanced consistency that these putters are being touted as. I think being able to do this in a blade style putter is fantastic. With all that said, I'd be really curious to hear what you have to say. If you think that these putters from Evnroll are going to be something you're going to want to try, I'd also love to hear what you think about the whole idea of face forward technology or toe up design putters. Is that something that interests you? And if you've tried one, please let me know if it gave you a little bit better performance on the greens. And if it didn't, I'd also love to hear about that too. If you got some good information about the Evnroll Zero putters or about putting in general from this video, it'd be really great if you would smash that like button, subscribe to my channel. And if you have any questions that I didn't answer about the Evnroll putters or about putters in general, please feel free to drop them in the comment area below. I do try and monitor my comment area and answer as many questions as I possibly can. So thanks very much for joining me, and I'll look forward to seeing you again next time.